Gracias. Buenas tardes, good afternoon to everyone. Just over a year ago, on February 15, 2023, Daniel Ortega's dictatorship declared me stateless in Nicaragua. A spurious judicial resolution branded me a traitor to the homeland. They stripped me of all my political rights forever, and they erased my identity in the civil registry. Additionally, the government confiscated all my assets, my home, and even my Social Security retirement pension. How can a dictatorship, in an act of political vengeance, strip me of my nationality, something that is prohibited by the Nicaraguan Constitution and by United Nations international conventions? The truth is, it cannot. I am and will always be Nicaraguan, despite this crime against humanity. And thanks to the solidarity of the international community, and especially from Spain, Spain granted me its nationality. Now I am a Nicaraguan traveling with a Spanish passport. In Latin America, only the Chilean dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet in the 70s dared to strip dozens of citizens of their nationality. Among them was Salvador Allende's former foreign minister, Orlando Letelier, who was assassinated in DuPont Circle in Washington, D.C. in a terrorist attack in 1976. However, in Nicaragua, the dictatorship has declared stateless more than 317 citizens. Among them are the 222 former political prisoners, political and civic leaders, human rights defenders, university students, peasant leaders, businessmen, Catholic Church priests, bishops, and also more than 15 journalists. The human rights crisis that I am describing started in April 2018 when a national protest exploded demanding justice and free election. The civic insurrection of April implicated large demonstrations, university occupations, barricades on the barrios, and thousands of people armed only with their cell phones, demanding the ouster of dictator Daniel Ortega and his wife, Vice President Rosario Murillo. The dictatorship responded with a bloody massacre. More than 300 people assassinated, now in impunity. Thousands were arbitrarily detained, tens of thousands in exiles. There were also two national dialogues in which the government committed to restore freedom, but they never followed through. For the last 6 years in Nicaragua, we have lived under a police state that has crushed all democratic freedom. In 2021, the dictatorship put in prison the 7 aspiring political candidates of the opposition to eliminate political competition and to create a sham election to re-elect, just like Vladimir Putin did it in 2024. Confidencial, the digital outlet that I have been directing for 25 years, has been raided twice by the police. They robbed everything, all our property were confiscated, but they could never silence us. They could never confiscate journalism. I have faced the agonizing dilemma of accepting be taken to prison illegally while being innocent, or to leave the country to escape, to preserve my freedom and continue doing journalism. One is never prepared to go into exile. But on June 15, 2021, my wife and I decided to cross the border towards Costa Rica through blind spots in order to escape and to continue being the voice of many others. Nicaraguan journalism in exile, either in Costa Rica, in Spain, in the United States, is the last reserve of freedom in a country where there is no freedom of reunion, freedom of mobilization, freedom of the press or expression, electoral freedom, and not even religious freedom. My colleague journalist, Victor Ticay, has been condemned to 8 years in prison for the so-called crime of broadcasting images of a religious procession in his Facebook account. And university professor Freddy Quesada is now in prison, condemned to 8 years for accused of conspiracy and spreading fake news because of the critical comments that he made on social media. This double-sided criminalization of freedom of the press and freedom of expression pretends to silence journalism and also freedom of opinion. It is the latest stage of demolition of the state of law for the last 15 years. In Nicaragua, there are no longer any foreign correspondents, and there are no sources that one can attribute information, facts, or analysis because they fear reprisals. All sources request anonymity. My entire newsroom now is in exile, and practically all independent Nicaraguan media is working from exile. Exile is no longer a temporary situation, but is now a permanent condition that imposes immense challenges to journalism, and I just want to mention 4 of them. First, the challenge of physical security, to provide security of the internet to distribute our content, and also to provide security to our sources, to provide them with secure channel of communication. Second, we have to raise the standards of verification of information because we work only with anonymous sources. We have to protect the credibility of journalism that depends mostly on our audiences. Third, we also have the challenge of promoting digital transformation in order to strengthen the relationship with our audiences. When the rule of law has collapsed, we only depend on our audiences to maintain our credibility. And last but not least, we face the challenge of gaining the sustainability for journalism in exile. As a result of the criminalization of our private advertisers, we have to create new models of economic management, combining international grants, contribution from the audiences, and monetization of our digital platform. But this requires a paradigm shift from philanthropic organizations and for international organizations that support independent media. It is a democratic imperative to maintain the survival of the media, not only Nicaragua, Cuba, Venezuela, but also other countries like Russia, Iran, Afghanistan, and Myanmar. Together with the families of the victims of the repression and human rights defenders, we journalists are trying to preserve the truth, to construct memory as a pillar for justice and the restitution of democracy. The resistance of the press in exile is not enough to clear the way through a democratic transition under a totalitarian dictatorship. But as long as we continue doing more and good journalism, we could maintain freedom of the press as the first and the last of all freedoms. As my father, Pedro Joaquín Chamorro, former editor of La Prensa, who was assassinated in 1978 by another dictatorship, the Somoza dictatorship, as he proclaimed, when we recover freedom, Nicaragua volverá a ser república. Nicaragua will be a republic again. Thank you. Muchas gracias. Gracias.